Hey, Sarah.
I'm I'm here, Bob.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
no,
so I
just
think we connect by
up on the 8
phone.
o'clock. Hop on the 8 o'clock. That's gonna be the best way. Okay, bye now. Bye bye. Bob, hello.
Yeah.
Okay, my apology.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. And that was someone I'm telling her to hop on our 8 o'clock training call. So I'll be hopping off of this early, unfortunately, because I do an 8 o'clock
Understood.
training.
Understood.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Understood. And I know
great.
you got stuff going
Great day, great
on.
day. And if you have a moment tomorrow, would like to ask you, nobody else has hopped on, right? Just the two of us. I wanted
Yeah,
to,
as far as I know.
yeah, I wanted to ask you about MailChimp or something, Bob. I just want to think that you
Yeah,
might
sure.
know something. This is before somebody hop on. I want to be where I can go in maybe and email, just say 50, 75 people, email them my Zoom link and it go through a system. Is there such a thing? Because again, as you've stated, when I send Eventbrite, they get confused. So I'm not using that. I don't want to use that platform for having them to sign up for the Zoom because people get confused when it's those two steps. I don't know what to do.
It's interesting. The last Merit Web open house, I actually asked, can you use something besides Eventbrite? Because that's a real pain in the butt to deal with, especially online stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they're required to use Eventbrite.
Okay,
So I don't know what that means.
well, they
But
may
no,
be.
I'll be glad to show you.
Well, yeah, we can talk. I know you're busy,
I'll
but
tell you what, sir, get your folks off of social media as soon as you can and onto your private email list. I got some stories for you, you know.
Mm.
So right now the social media platforms right now, I think they have too much control over, you know, over what we're allowed to do and whatnot. So
And which
anyway,
platforms are these,
I'll be
Bob?
glad to show you, sir.
But
Now
which
I don't
platform?
use, yeah, I don't use MailChimp. I use Get Response, but they're pretty similar. So I'll show you.
Okay,
Hi,
well, when
Andy.
you have time, you just tell me. All right, I know we're busy, and I look forward to hearing your stories tonight, as always. They're just so awesome. Thank you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, sir. I'm actually in Virginia.
What?
I'm still attending to some family medical issues, but
Oh,
the I'm actually tempted to call. I'm trying to dig up public records information for Fairfax County in Virginia, and I think I'm going to make a call into Legal Shield after this meeting to see the best way to troll the public records here.
okay.
So
Call in the morning. They're closed now. After hours, they're nine to
yeah.
nine to
Oh,
five.
now yeah, I'll call in the morning.
Yeah, call in
Yeah,
the morning.
yeah.
Absolutely. Don't ponder that. Call.
Mm-hmm.
Make the call. Tap the app.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yes. Well, hope all that goes well with you. I know I can only imagine the back and forth, but you'll get it done, and you do have help there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we got a couple more minutes, Sarah.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I can start 10 after, and I'm good. Whatever time,
Okay.
10, 12 after, because again, it's an overview.
Well, I'd like to give some landlord tips learned from a combination of Merit Web, the legal shield attorneys, as well as personal experience. So,
Well, super. Please do. Yeah, please do, because it's all relevant to what you're doing. You see, like when I
I
do the
think
will
so.
workshops, I like for people to come in with their will testimonies and things like that. It works.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Well,
Bob, how's it going?
right now we don't have a whole lot. Oh, hey, Andy. How are Ann and Sam doing?
Doing good. How's Linda?
Oh, she's okay. I spoke to her yesterday. Just holding down the fort. Got a bunch
You
of
still
cats
out
there.
of town?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually in Virginia right now, Vienna, Virginia, Northern
Okay.
Virginia. So
I saw
now
Eddie had
my
posted something saying you were
one
in
sister
town, so I was
goes,
curious.
oh no, he's just doing that because yeah, well, he's Eddie. So
Yeah,
he's doing
getting
that,
you
I
in
think,
trouble.
to kind of pull everyone's leg a bit. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. We have something to chat about later, Andy. So for
Okay.
sure.
Sounds good, Bob.
Okay,
Anytime.
well,
You got my number.
absolutely. Thank you. Hey, Sarah, I'm going to make you a co-host right now. And Gerald just popped on. Hey, Gerald.
Okay,
It's okay. I'm going to make Gerald a co-host as well.
okay.
I hope you don't mind, Gerald. Okay, this is the, oops, where is this here? Here we are. Okay, this is the Legal Shield part of our, I should say, the combination of legal and lessons learned legally of our meeting. As you can see, the first half hour is devoted to how to obtain affordable legal expertise, licensed legal expertise in our areas, as well as I was mentioning to Sarah, I'm going to seek some up here in Virginia. I want to learn how to troll the public records here legally. But anyway, to start off, this is the Legal Shield section of our meeting. To start off, can you see my screen okay, Sarah?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, well, okay. As you can see here, I want to go over some landlording issues, especially during a time when there are moratoriums on evictions and whatnot. And I think the moratorium on evictions is supposed to end, I believe it's the end of June. Is that correct? It's either the end of this month or the end of June. Okay. Anyway, I was able to evict someone. Oops. I was able to evict somebody because, well, I combined a combination of the Merit Web, the Legal Shield attorneys, as well as personal experience. One thing I learned about South Carolina, it's very landlord friendly. Now, I had a rental up in Pennsylvania a long time ago. I know Pennsylvania's a bit more tough. Okay. I'm sure Gerald knows that too. But here in South Carolina, it's really what's in your lease. In this case here, my lease is actually it's very landlord friendly for obvious reasons. I want to control who's in, my properties and whatnot. For example, I've strict guidelines as to what the tenant can or cannot do. Now, magistrates, especially the one in Aiken, she doesn't like my lease, but she's obligated to enforce it. Okay. And obviously I don't want to create an enemy out of a magistrate, but she's got to do, what's in the lease. In this case here, I limit occupancy, pets. Now, this is what I'll tell you right now. This is kind of unofficial. If they have if a tenant does violate to some degree this lease, I'm going to hold on to that. If it's a severe violation or they just turn out to be a pain in the butt, I will use that to get rid of them. Okay. For example, here, take a look at number 8. Now you notice here, I don't want tenants contacting me unless there's a $500 or more requirement for repairing something. Basically, if somebody throws a tennis ball down the toilet, okay, that's on them. Now, if it's a really good tenant, I will bend that rule and I'll take care of it myself. But if it's a pain in the butt tenant, hey, I'm going to stick to the lease. All right. So really your control is in your lease here in South Carolina. The magistrates, they can be subjective to some degree. And there's one in New Ellington, I understand, who's, well, I'll deal with that later. Okay. That's one of our members, one of our folks, I should say, has an issue with one in New Ellington, but that can be dealt with. Also, this is a powerful clause in your lease. Number 23, if there's a violation of the lease, non-payment of rent or some other violation, you can file eviction right away the very next day. In South Carolina, unless you have this clause inside your lease, okay, you have to serve what's called a 5-day notice to remedy the situation or before you can file eviction. This clause in here in this lease, it says, hey, I don't have to serve a 5-day notice. As soon as you violate anything, this is a very good clause to have in your lease. As soon as you violate anything, I can boot you I can file to boot you the next day. All right. So if you're a landlord out there, I suggest you have this in your lease also. And now for what it's worth, I do have a copy of my lease that obviously it's in Word format. It's in our members area. It's under, and I had to look this up myself. I forgot where I put this thing. Let me just minimize this. If you go to the members area and log in, it's under documents, templates, and calculators, and it's under the forms and calculators. It's in Word format, and just download it. Oops, right here. Okay. That has all what I learned through experience, as well as my legal shield attorney, how to control your tenants and minimize the headaches you go through with, when you're dealing with problem tenants. Another issue is, now this is an actual eviction filing that I had to evict somebody in March, the middle of March sometime. One thing the legal shield attorney told me is even if they didn't pay rent, throw the kitchen sink out there. Okay. As many possible ways you can get a bad tenant out, file it. Okay. If I hadn't, in fact, it turns out I had to get this tenant out because of the eviction moratorium. Okay. You're not supposed to be able to evict based on their inability to pay. So I had that checked, but I also had violation of lease terms checked also. And the violation of lease terms is how I got that tenant out. Okay. The magistrate did honor that. She wouldn't have honored if I just said, hey, this guy owes me money. All right. So, and this is probably kind of a controversial thing to say. My leases pretty much have a clause in there that I'm pretty sure the tenants are going to violate. Okay. So if need be, and like I said, I don't do this against good tenants, but I will use that lease violation to get a bad tenant out. All right. That's combination legal shield attorneys as well as personal experience. Abandonment. And this is something I should have, okay. Keep an eye on your utilities. Okay. Obviously my tenants pay utilities, but one of our folks who actually manages her own commercial properties, retail properties, she told me this. She said you can actually have the electric, if you own the property, you can have the electric company notify you if electric utilities are shut off on any one of your properties that you own, even if you're not the one paying the bill. All right. So if there's an electric utility shut off, okay, that's considered abandonment. Okay. This is in my lease. It addresses abandonment, where I can just terminate the lease and regain lawful possession. However, this is South Carolina law right here. You might want to Google this one. This is actually a pretty handy one to have. South Carolina Code of Laws 27-40-730. This was a legal shield thing. I didn't know this existed. Okay. If the utilities are turned off, okay, and that's a reasonable assumption that the property has been abandoned. Again, this is check with your own attorneys. I check with my legal shield folks. Okay. But if the utilities are turned off, okay, that's immediately, you can change the locks out according to my legal shield attorneys, right? You don't even have to file eviction. So from now on, if I have to evict somebody, then I'm going to check to see if the utilities are off first. If they're turned off, I'm just changing out the locks. Second thing, if the tenant has less than $500 worth of market value of property of their own stuff left in your unit, you don't have to schedule a set out. Just change the locks. Now, this is personal experience. Okay. Several deputies in Aiken, they use a constable, but in Lexington and Richland County, they use deputies. I've seen some, what I would normally deem to be like pretty expensive stuff. And I've said, does this look like $500 worth of stuff? And they just throw their hands up and say, we can't even touch that. So in my mind, guess what? It's not $500. All right. The way I see it, okay, if I have to set their stuff out on the curb and then 48 hours, they have to set it out technically for 48 hours. I have to send someone out there again to get the stuff. You know, as far as I'm concerned, there's never $500 worth of stuff in my unit. Just change out the locks. That's my personal opinion. You know, check with your own legal counsel to see if that's something you should do. All right. And be careful. There are possible consequences to doing something like that, like civil court. But you know my opinion of certain things if you've spoken to me outside of this. Next thing, down here, this is again something Legal Shield pointed out to me, and I've used this to actually collect money. If you evict a tenant, and let's say, for example, you had them in for a year lease and you evicted them at, like, say, month 3, by law, that's a promissory note. They owe you, you know, the rest of the year, 9 more months of rent. Okay, you can go after them if you choose to do so. In South Carolina, small claims court is up to $7,500. It costs $80. Now, in reality, it's tough to collect on awarded judgments in South Carolina. So I only do this for tenants that I know have, well, for one thing, you know, jobs, but also if I think they might buy a house. Okay, because there's a pretty good chance. I shouldn't say a pretty good chance. They declare bankruptcy because of foreclosure action against them. And I learned this. I use that to collect the remainder of my rent. Okay, so I don't file in small claims court against every tenant I evict, just the ones with jobs that I think might have a shot of maybe one day buying a house. Okay, that being said, those are a few things I learned from a combination of Legal Shield attorneys and personal experience as a landlord to control my tenants. And I've been in Virginia right now for a couple of months now because of a family medical issue. And my rentals have pretty much been running on their own because of the lease I use, thanks to, among other things, the Legal Shield attorneys. Now, if it's okay, I'd like to turn the stage over to Sarah Mitchell, who's the Legal Shield regional manager in our area. She'll tell us how we can get Legal Shield attorneys protection for affordable, obviously at affordable cost. Sarah was formerly trained in business administration and accounting. She's a former manager at Bell South. She's been with Legal Shield since 1998. Now just does Legal Shield full time, training especially small businesses how to take the best advantage of it. She specializes in the small business and employee benefits arena. And she's definitely a valuable contact to have in your Rolodex, if anyone remembers what a Rolodex is. Sarah, could you turn your screen on right now?
Okay.
And thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
All right. Can you see the slide there?
Oh, I can see your screen. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me just get this. All right, wonderful. Okay, great. Well, again, thanks for the opportunity, Bob. And I just love how you utilize the service. I think you agree sometimes you need to send Legal Shield attorneys a few extra $100 a month, a couple of thousands based on utilization there. But anyway, Midlands REIA members, as Bob said, I've been working with small business owners for quite some time. This is a fast-paced overview. I love what I do. I too, having been a small business owner prior to Legal Shield and still is, as even with Legal Shield, I find the services to just be invaluable. So Midlands REIA partnered with Legal Shield so that you can go to their website and you can even browse all the many services that's being offered through that website, which is a marketing arm for Legal Shield. So thanks to Bob, he is always looking at how he can share value with others. So let me just go real fast. Again, I think for most of you, I believe, may have been on the line to hear all of Bob's stories, but if you only heard one or two, it's like, my God, was that a value for looking at pennies a day? I mean, you're looking at less than a McDonald's coffee. I mean, the inexpensive coffee, almost like the senior coffee for the price, of your attorney fee. And we believe that with the right resources, running a business can be easier. Who would not want it to be simplified, easier, and more affordable, especially when you start looking at legal attorney, I mean, the cost for accessing attorneys. Just ask yourself real quick, and I've had the pleasure of enrolling many of the Midlands REIA members through Midlands REIA website. I'm the one that usually explain everything so Bob can stay focused on his core, yet have that extra income stream there, assistance coming through the organization to help with growth for all of you, all of us. I'm part of it as well. So, just ask yourself, have you ever experienced, or one of your colleagues or business partners experience debt collection issues? I'm not going to even talk about where we are right now as it relates to COVID, what has happened the last 15, 16 months. We all know where we are. So many have experienced that. What about signing contracts not reviewed? That too can come back. And as you heard Bob stated earlier, how he has utilized the attorneys for so many document review, contract review, things of that nature. What about contractors and supplier disputes? That does come into the picture as a business owner. We could go on and on. Product liability issues. If you have employees, there could be concerns there. COVID related, non-COVID related, tax audits, all of that. Threats of consumer laws. That's the first thing one reference now. Well, you're going to hear from my attorney. Well, the beauty here with Bob and myself and many others, when we say that, we're telling the truth. It's like we don't have to worry about it. Imagine just picking up your phone, tapping the app, and now you are in touch with your law firm. Bob is in Virginia, calling them in the morning. How simple is that? No sweat, no stress, just tap the app. And, looking at situations now with COVID, just pivoting a little, we're in a situation now where you need to seek clarification. As you can see, Bob by consulting with the lawyers, his law firm, which has over 30 something lawyers there, he was able to incorporate another piece of language that allowed him to go forward with an eviction there. So the question now, even if it's debt collection, is like, can I send a debt collection letter? Can I report it to a credit repository? That's the COVID thing now. What about documents? All these new governances and legislations. Businesses are now reopening, re-engaging. Well, that come with another set of issues, believe it or not. Even those with employees, another set of issues. So here, when you can tap the app and call your law firm and find out for certain, what compliance issues exist, what are my responsibility as it relate to COVID, OSHA, people working from home, sick leave, insurance claims, things of that nature. That's what we're bringing to the table so that you don't have to worry about billable hours. It's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep. And we know from studies that 60% of small business owners, indicate that they've had a legal issue within the past 2 years. And that's a little higher now because of COVID. And we're helping with that. And so many of them have spent, they stated like about $7,600 in expenses. And many 20% saying they spent more than that. It doesn't take much when you're paying $300, $400, $500 an hour. And that's just the going rate, especially depending on what state you're in. It could be, higher than that. Do we still have some of the PPP involvement here? EIDL loans, SBA Express Bridge loans, SBA relief, all of that is still with us. And we can't ignore that because it's part of the operation. So just imagine having affordable access to your law firm where you just tap the app for legal, business, as well as personal matters. That's what Bob was talking about tonight. And if Bob were to calculate, just say what an average cost would be from everything that he just mentioned tonight. Keep in mind, that's not everything. That's just a small segment. How many thousands of dollars would that have been in attorney fees? And here he does not even pay, $500 a year for all those services. Any one of them would have exceeded $500. Benjamin, bar none, I bet. I'll bet anyone, if you find an attorney to do any one of those for less than about $500, I'll give you $100. That's just where we are. Here, what has Bob and so many others Midland REIA members have found by adding to their $24.95 personal plan. Write that down. $24.95 for a personal plan. I'll tell you all that that covers. But this is the key piece because of what you do, the nature of your business, your entrepreneurship. You can add a home business supplement, which is only $12.95. We can't even go to Panera Bread. Bob and I have been out to the mall and spent that for one of those delicious 2,000 lattes that we had there. I mean, it was worth it. But again, it was right. I mean, that's the kind of money we spend. So just imagine $12.95. You're adding an attorney to your business. You're adding legal counsel to your business for $12.95 a month. That's less than maybe 25 or 30 cents a day. Where could you go and hire someone, legal counsel, for that amount of money? Advice, consultation, research, letters and phone calls made on your behalf, designated consultation, document review, collection letter. It even come with IRS audit legal services and interstate services, because now so many entrepreneurs are working across, I mean, they have ventures that are going across state lines. I mean, Bob, gracious, he's in so many different states pretty much. I mean, even with traveling. So that's what you're looking at. But just ask yourself on the personal side, okay? Have you ever, lost your wallet? Or have you ever thought about, having your will updated? Have you ever thought about, gosh, I have a contract here and it needs signing or it needs reviewing? Have you ever been concerned about your child's identity or your identity or receive a speeding ticket? Those are just regular day-to-day life events. And that's why we're so excited. I just enrolled a lady somewhere in Havelock, North Carolina, Havelock or whatever, Havelock, somewhere up in North Carolina, a referral. She just called several attorneys, and the cheapest one told her it would be $750 per Miss Angela, right here on my desk in North Carolina, for a consultation as it relates to an online divorce summons that she just received. $750, that's what she told me. So again, that's just what we're talking about. You don't go and have that time without paying. Is it worth it? Yes, but if you can get it at a much lesser rate, why wouldn't we? So here again, on this personal plan that you would have as your base, you're now having access on personal contract review, personal documents, picking up the phone, calling your law firm, IRS audit on the personal side. Here again, most of you entrepreneurs like myself, we don't just file W-2. We're involved in the Schedule C, Schedule E, all of that. So we have that coverage there on the business side. Here, this is for personal if you are not engaging at that level yet. Civil and trial defense. That's part of it. I mean, I had guests over yesterday, and what if someone just alleged, or someone out there, going down the steps in the back to the backyard, stumble, fall, any number of things. So again, this is what that personal side provides you. Civil trial defense. It even comes with uncontested divorce, adoption, separation, name change, all of that. It's a 90-day wait period for that, but would that not be worth it? So again, we just want you to realize the comprehensiveness here of this service. And I could go on and on with stories. I've used it. I mean, I bet if I were to ask them to run a history, probably over 100 times, because sometimes, like Bob, I've used the service 3, 4, 5 times a month, because it's just a matter of tapping the app. I have a question about this, putting up a fence, HOA issues. Tapping the app, I had a speeding ticket, calling law firm. Tapping the app, my mortgage company went into foreclosure. What does this document mean to us? Tapping the app, hail damage. They didn't want to pay for the entire roof based on the extent of the damage. All of these things got resolved. Tapping the app, my speeding ticket. So, I mean, that's what you're looking at. Tapping the app, starting my will. So here, even with, in addition to other things, you now can, if you're venturing a business at it's encouraged to update your will at least once a year. How many of you have engaged in that, a different set of new assets and have forgotten about that piece? That's important. So here again, you can tap the app, update your will at least once a year, you and your spouse or significant other if you cohabitate, and you're now having your estate planning documents included for that same $24.95. That's why we get so excited about what we're doing, because of the value and medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney. Just had a young lady who did that, dealing with the medical, her father up there in New York. Unfortunately, he died last week, but she was able to get some of that in place so that she could have everything she needs to communicate with the hospital. So again, 24/7 emergency access. That's part. Bob is traveling right now, along with some of you may be on the road. But if he needed to tap the app because he's pulled over right now, and now law enforcement want to search his car, detain him, question him, interview him, he can tap an app. Here it is, whatever time it is, about 7:25 tonight, and speak with his law firm. That's huge. And that's 24/7. They're there. And there are other discounts that members get: pre-existing, contested divorce, adoption, DUI, can be any number of things. Bottom line, affordable legal protection in and out of court is a necessity. Legal protection is a necessity. We just happen to be where we can provide it with a big smile saying it's affordable. Most of the time, it's not going to be affordable. Another service that we offer, identity theft. We cover all areas, the most comprehensive identity theft service in North America. Forbes Advisor just awarded us the 2021 winner for having the most robust identity theft service in all of North America. We're excited about that. Last year, 2020, cybersecurity awarded us. We even now have identity theft protection for your business. That's huge. For your nonprofit, that's huge. So how many people do you know would like to look at how they can protect their business and their nonprofits? We can help with that. It's very comprehensive. As you can see, dark web, social security, passport, your social media, all of your DNA. That's what you're looking at. That reputation management there. Consultation. We have just ventured into an area with is no competition. I mean, regardless of what you hear, I promise you it's just no competition, and we can attest to that with all the recognition that we've gotten. So I'm just going to say, bottom line, what we're looking at is, let me just go ahead to this next slide here. I think that's a repeat. Lawsuits happen. I think you can see that later there. Lawsuits happen. Let your provider attorney handle your defense fund. And that's where we're looking at how we can do that for members, for adding your legal counsel to your business for $12.95. So if you're looking at adding that in addition to your comprehensive personal protection, it's only $37.90. $1.25 a day pretty much. And you have the peace of mind, protection, and security that you need, not just for your family, but for your business as well. You may have other things going on and need a more robust plan. As you can see, Bob has utilized this to the max, but we do have where you can have additional liability coverage. You can have additional business supplement coverage. We have share riders, we have commercial drivers, we have gun owners. As a matter of fact, on Monday night, I'll be hosting a firearm protection seminar, just focusing on that with a CWP instructor Monday night. So Bob will post that as well. And with all the new laws here, hey, how does that affect you? So that's what we're looking at here. And I'm just ecstatic and excited to have Midlands REIA part of our platform, trying to, helping to get the word out. We have perks here. I've saved so many thousands of dollars on perks. When I educate members on the perks, literally less than $40 a month. That can be at no cost. I've saved that much in just getting tickets for the twins to go to the movie and going in through the perk saving $5 and $6. I mean, Best Buy perk saving, restaurant perk saving. So that's what you're looking at there with that. So, just having said that, Bob, I'm just going to defer this screen sharing back to you and wrap up by saying, please go to Bob's website or either call me, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions as it relates to clarification on the legal services and all that we have to offer. And we can send you videos, we can send you brochures. I usually just help facilitate that piece so Bob can stay focused on helping all of you in another way to a greater capacity. So again, thank you, Bob, for allowing me to visit with you tonight.
Thank you, Sarah. But that reminds me, we're starting to get some activities going again. So if you could send me the information on the gun owners, the day and time, and let me put that on our calendar of events. Okay.
Will do tonight.
So,
thank you.
okay. Thanks, Sarah. Okay. Well, I appreciate it, Sarah. Thank you for speaking. It's always a pleasure to have you on. This is the Midlands REIA formal part of the meeting. That was the very important pre-meeting session, I think. But anyway, this is the main meeting itself. Now that being said, okay, this is our liability disclosure, in that nobody on this call, as far as I know, is licensed as an attorney or a financial planner or anything like that. Okay. What you hear on this is from personal experience, which frankly is for the most part, especially tonight, we have someone who has very good personal experiences he can share with us. But if you question the legal or financial wisdom of anything you hear tonight, or actually anywhere really, make sure you check with your own licensed and qualified counsel. So, which, as Sarah had mentioned, especially legally, can get pretty expensive. So that's why we give the legal shield, have the legal shield session at the beginning of every meeting. But anyway, okay. I apologize, folks. This should be really, I don't know why that's 2021. Okay. Now this is kind of a given. The national speakers, the few national speakers that I used to be a seminar junkie, and I'd heard this over and over again. Out of all the people nationwide who get into real estate the way us common folks do, only 3% ever do even a single deal. Okay. So anyway, keep that number in mind. One of our goals is to increase that considerably. Now I heard in the Columbia area, it's close to maybe 10%, but even then that's still abysmally low. Okay. The way we want to increase that affordably is to offer more workshops when we can. Obviously, as the pandemic's winding down, we're going to start offering more and better subgroups. Be wary. Now you're going to see, keep in mind that 3% success statistic. You're going to see the gurus probably going to start coming back out, even local ones. They're going to charge like thousands of dollars for their coaching programs and whatnot. If you happen to be one of the 97% who never do a single deal, and they want you to charge to your credit card so they get paid, okay, guess who gets stuck with the debt? All right. We don't think at Midlands REIA, we don't think that you have to spend a whole lot of money to learn even the basics of real estate investing to be able to turn some money. Okay. So our belief is to first learn affordably how to do a couple deals that'll make you some money. And if you really want to step up into those expensive coaching programs, then pay for it from your earnings. Don't put it on your credit cards. That way, if you decide it's not for you and you end up, back out of the real estate investing arena, at least you're not stuck with this credit card debt that you have to pay off. Okay. For beginners, we want to get you up and running independently from anyone else as soon as possible. Don't get me wrong. We'd love to keep you around year after year, but we know your situation changes, and well, we know eventually you're going to have to move at your own pace. Okay. For the advanced investors, we want to provide the best continuing resources possible. which is one reason I've asked Gerald to speak with us tonight. Why the low success rate? Oops. Oh, sorry about that. I got to admit a few people. I believe it's because we're in a situation where it's easy to do and easy to not do. As you can see here, if you see a timeline of success and failure, okay, success comes after being disciplined over time and just over and over again, learning from your mistakes and improving on them. Failure is being inconsistent, not learning from your mistakes. And you can see along this timeline, success and failure look pretty much the same. And at one point, you're going to get either success or failure. Okay. Some people just drop out completely. I'll never understand that because, as I mentioned, it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to get into the business, at least the way we see it. But it does require some discipline and work. Okay. Success doesn't just jump into your lap. It's interesting. We get memberships to Midlands REIA, and I never hear from them again. And that bothers me. So how does a good club or association help? We believe a good club or association offers an abundance of resources, provides great networking. Now, that being said, we don't anticipate meeting in person again till probably September. Okay. It looks like coronavirus is scaling down, but at the same time, I see it kicking up in places like, well, among other places, Southeast Asia, India, the Northwest, Oregon and Washington. Some places have shut back down. Okay. I don't trust this coronavirus. I want to make sure that it's out of our hair and make pretty darn sure before we start meeting in person. So tentatively, I set an in-person meeting time for September. Okay. Hopefully that'll give us the summer to make sure the coronavirus has gone away. And even then that may have to be adjusted if this coronavirus persists. A good club or association will give the best training possible. A good club or association, you notice I'm saying a good club or association, not necessarily Midlands REIA. Okay. We try to aim for certain things, but anyway, a good club or association is always seeking to improve and adapt. All right. So as I mentioned, legally, I discovered a few things that I have frankly incorporated into my own landlording techniques, and I'll be glad to discuss these with you after the meeting. Also, a good club or association will learn and teach best practices for local investing. A lot of these national gurus come to town and they tell you things that frankly don't work or will get you in trouble. Okay, so we're looking for things locally, investors who are actually doing the business locally. All right, and then know the quirks of certain laws, the magistrates, things like that. For annual members, okay, we offer discounts to national vendors and supply houses, discounts on Midlands REIA trainings and workshops, no door fees to general meetings when you meet in person. Okay. Obviously, since this is an online thing, obviously there's no fee for this. Access to the members area with local cash buyers, documents, videos, other resources, close guidance for deals. That's a Midlands REIA thing. That's not a national thing. All right. Don't get me wrong. I ask for help from some of our more seasoned members like Andy, Adrian, and obviously we want them to help as many as they can. As for myself, I have to prioritize the members, the annual members. Okay, I'll talk to anybody personally, but I have to prioritize the annual members. We're always looking for suggestions on how to improve. Workshops, topics, subgroups are always open to that. And as much as I'd love to hear, hey, you guys are in a great association, I'd rather hear, hey, you guys can improve on this. All right. And if we can improve on it, we'll definitely do that. A few things. We are on social media, Facebook, the major ones, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. But if nothing else, at least go to this link here, or you can just go to our webpage, and up here, it goes to the same group. It's a Facebook group where there's a lot of deal flipping going on. Okay. If you have a deal that you want to sell or you're looking for funding, then by all means, post it in this group. If you need, now don't post the address unless you have it under contract. Otherwise, there's a pretty good chance someone's going to swipe it from you. I've had deals swiped from me because, well, I didn't have it under contract and I posted it. But this mastermind group, if this is a deal that people are interested in, then you can probably get like a bunch of responses and whatnot. If it's not such a good deal, obviously you're not going to see a whole lot of interest in it. Okay. But with regards to the actual cash buyers group, it's right in here, and it gives I know there's over 50 of them here. How many exactly? I think maybe 54 right now, but it gives their phone numbers and everything. Now, that being said, please don't call them unless you actually have a deal. Don't call them to say, hey, I just called to say hi. And don't waste their time. Be respectful of their time. Now, an annual membership with Midlands REIA, we're asking $125 a year for a single and $200 for a couple. That's to defray expenses, among other things, especially when we start meeting back at the hotel. For non-members, the first visit is free, and afterwards, $20 at the door. Okay, and of course that door fee can be applied towards annual membership. Now, that being said, as I mentioned, things are starting to scale back up. This is actually the first in-person meeting, significant in-person meeting that it's basically kicking up again. It's the Ladies Business Networking Meeting. They meet every fourth Friday of the month. In this case here, the next one is May 28th. Deborah Wanger is the moderator and host of that one. RSVP is required. This is her phone number and her email address. And if you forget this, and I will have the recording of this ready, okay? If you forget that, you can always go to our calendar of events. And if you click on calendar of events, and I'm going to start posting here again, upcoming events, like for example, Sarah's gun owners legal shield training, and this is Deborah's here. If you click there, it also has Deborah's contact information on this as well. Okay, so please check the calendar of events regularly. Okay, tonight's interview subject is Gerald Stauffer. I met Gerald, I think back in, Gerald, can you hear me okay? Gerald on mute.
Yes, I can hear you, Bob.
Okay. Hey, Gerald, when did we meet? It was 2000, wasn't like 2010. I know it was in Baltimore, Maryland. Was it 2010?
It seems that
Something
it was,
like that?
yeah, it seems at
Maybe
least
2012.
Yeah, I think it goes back probably every bit of that
Yeah, I
far.
remember Gerald. Yeah, I was actually tickled pink when I heard you're from Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, or you lived in Selinsgrove. I remember meeting you the first time Gerald ever gave me a tour of his properties. I met Gerald, and Gerald was sitting in a bar, and everyone knew Gerald. Has anyone seen that show Cheers? Okay, Norm walks in and goes, Norm. Okay, it's the same thing with Gerald. Okay, and anyway, I knew Gerald had something going. He took me around to several of his properties. At the time, he had a pig farm that had biofuel research going on. That's pretty good. Now, these are university professors drooling to do research on Gerald's farm. And this is a gentleman who dropped out of school in the 8th grade, and he's commanding what these university researchers are and aren't allowed to do on his farm. Anyway, Gerald dropped out of school in 8th grade. He helped build some farm silos for a while, hard work. As I understand, you started investing back in 2003. So you rode through the bad recession of 2007, 2008. And I understand your portfolio at the time was over 40 houses. You had the pig farm, of course. And at the time, I believe you only had one self-storage facility, a large office building. You bought and sold over $11 million of real estate since then. You're involved with a number of charities and community services. I know you bought the farmers market that I used to go to when I was a kid every Wednesday. My parents used to say, get some fresh vegetables and stuff from this farmer's market. And Gerald bought that, and he's doing a bang up job with keeping it running and improving on it. Gerald stayed in the game. This is his contact. Gerald, is that your correct contact information?
All that is correct, Bob.
Okay, great. Okay, Gerald, I appreciate you coming back on. We had the privilege of talking to Gerald last year, and Gerald gave us a little background for those especially who are relatively new and haven't met Gerald before. Gerald, could you give us a review of your background? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What is like growing up the way you did? influences in your life, things like that, how you got into real estate. Could you give us a little background?
I will. Well, thanks everybody for allowing me to be part of this. Thank you, Bob. I know you have a good group here in the Midlands, and thankful to be part of it. But as far as my background, I grew up. I'll try to keep some of the religious side brief, but my parents are what one would call old order Mennonite or similar to Amish. No cars, no electricity, no phones in their house, and their practice in the community is to go to 8th grade. So I did that. I went to 8th grade, and that was all for me. But among that, I learned persistence and hard work, and just kind of separated from that way of life at my older teenage years. I think it was around 19 when I stepped out of that. And I welcome questions, Bob, from you or whomever. I'll defer to you and the way you manage the meeting, Bob. But on my count, any questions that you care to pass through are valid to me.
I got a bunch of questions for you, Joe. Anyone else who has questions, by all means, please feel free to unmute yourself, or even just put it in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on both. I'm not that coordinated, but I'll try my best. Joe, okay, having come from, obviously an old order Mennonite family, how'd you decide to get into real estate? How'd you learn, basically, okay, you got into real estate. Where did you learn to do what you did to build what you've built? Could you tell us a little bit about what you own, things like that, and how you even got into that?
Sure. Well, hard work was something I was really good at, still am, and enjoy it. However, I was working so hard, and I knew or believed, I still believe this would have been the case. I believed that my body would wear out before I wanted my paycheck to wear out. And at that, sort of putting it together in a simple mind, but I decided that I needed passive income that continued beyond my working years. And with that, I believed that buying my first rental property was a good step. My first property was in Sunbury, Bob. So, not the best of towns, as one would think from the area, but it worked. So how did I learn to do it? I just bought a home, was listed on the MLS, just called a realtor, said, hey, I'm looking for a rental property. And of course, they were happy to show me properties and sell me a property. Kind of learned doing it. I learned a lot in that first one. I learned what tenants are like, what contractors are like. Man, some of the stories even on that one, I evicted a tenant and they left all their belongings in the house. This was before Pennsylvania had rules and laws on how to handle abandoned property, but I set it out on the sidewalk. And they came by, snapped pictures, and filed a civil suit against me in court for $8,000 because that was the highest amount they could file in the magisterial court here at that time. One of their claims was for an antique piano, and what it was it came up, almost to your knee, and was plastic, some kid's toy. But anyway, contractors who contracted to remove the roofing, but only put the shingles over top of them. I'd get up on a ladder and check it out and find what was really the case and just deal with it in stride. So there's a lot of learning going on in these days.
Okay, sounds like you made some expensive mistakes. I mean, I know I made some. So, how did you first find? Okay, was that house a rental or was it a flip?
Rental. I was mostly involved and still am mostly involved in sort of midterm holds, not forever, but not, I have never really bought something with the idea that I will fix it and sell it in a short term. I've funded those as a lender, but I have never really bought anything with that intent. So that was a rental.
Okay, so that's kind of what you're doing now. You're buying them just to hold on to them, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay, now that first one, how'd you fund that? Was this your pocket money or was that a bank?
I had enough a down payment saved from my job and very frugal lifestyle. Still live that way, but just saved money and paid for the down payment that the bank required, and typical financing.
Okay, okay, now that was your first one. Now, ultimately, at the peak of your ownership, what all did you own? I know you owned at least one self-storage unit, or did you own some more that you didn't tell me about that I didn't see?
Yeah, no, at the peak of the ownership, I would have had that large hog farm, pig farm, in that we produced 30,000 fat hogs a year, and 4 self-storage properties all at the same time. There was, yeah, and we had the office building is small. I would say what you have on your screen, I would call it a small office building, but anyway, in the self-storage portfolio, we had about 1,100 units, and bought and sold. I actually looked into what we paid for some and what we sold them for earlier today, pulled out the settlement statements, and just was surprised again.
Gerald, did you say you're showing us pictures?
Oh, is my connection bad, Bob?
Yeah, right. I just see my screen right now.
No, I don't have pictures necessarily.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay, Gerald. Yeah, now you just showed me the one self-storage building. That was the one in downtown. Was that Sillins Grove, right? Grove.
I can gladly share screen if you wish, and just do some simple pictures if you wish.
Would you mind?
I don't at all.
That'd be great.
Don't mind at all.
Thank you, Gerald. Yeah, I didn't expect that, but thank you. That's great.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I know you just showed me that one. Was that downtown Sillins Grove, that self-storage one was?
The one that we built most recently was in the Sillins Grove area. Yes, actually, that was actually close to the first one that we bought. And when I say we, the business partner and I, properties, the self-storage, the farm, the small office building, and the residential properties.
I hope you don't mind if I throw this out. There was one, I think it was the self-storage one. And I hope you don't mind me mentioning to the folks that you sold that one for like a little over 8 million. So I don't know what the acquisition was or anything like that.
Yeah, that was the sum total of the portfolio, Bob. So the 8 million was the total of the 4 properties. So we may be talking the same thing. It was just four different properties, 4 parcels on it.
Okay. Now, as you know, buying holds can be kind of a hassle. Okay. Okay, you okay, Gerald? Can you get your screen up?
I am trying to allow Zoom to share screen, and it's telling me that I would need to quit and reopen.
Would anyone mind? Does anyone mind if Gerald does that, or do you just want to stay okay with this? Does anyone have any input on that?
No, I'm good with that, Bob. This is Tim. Now, is he
Okay.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, Joe, could you exit and try to enter back on there, see if we can get some screens going? If it's
I
not too
will
much
be right
trouble.
back.
Okay,
I'll be
thanks,
right back
Gerald.
in, Bob.
I apologize, folks. We're gonna get more into the self-storage stuff. Oh, Gerald's back in. Okay, I think I have to make Gerald a co-host again. So Gerald, I'm gonna try to make you a co-host here again. Let me see if I can find you. Here we go. Okay, Gerald, you back on? Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you, Gerald. I see your screen now. Okay. Hey, Gerald. I
All
think
right,
you might
I think I was muted. So I said, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about this. I wasn't as prepared as you deserve, and I apologize for that, but
Well, I kind of sprung this one on you, Gerald. Not your fault.
well, here we are. So I just pulled up. I don't know how well we will serve the people, but I'll click through and find more pictures as we do the interview style or questions and answers. But this is the property that we built most recently. I can click around. This is the website that we had that was bought, sold. They wanted to keep our brand. And so this is, I'm not sure what I.
So you sold the branding with the units.
We did, yes. They wanted to have the same brand, and we allowed that. You know, of course, they paid for it, but yes, we did.
Okay. Now I know buy and holds can be a bit of a headache at times, especially when you start scaling up the way you did. What kind of systems do you have in place? I know you do a lot of traveling. What kind of systems do you have in place to minimize the amount of effort that you personally have to put in?
So while we owned more of these properties, we had employees. I think we had about 6 or 7 employees plus myself and my business partner. So say 8 to 9 employees if we counted ourselves. And really we just separated responsibilities well in everybody knew who was doing what, and if something needed to get done that wasn't in their own sphere of responsibilities, who was doing it. So I think we hired for integrity, character, and skills, where we never wanted to micromanage. I often look for people that can do everything they need to do without my input. That's not always successful, but that's always my goals.
Okay. Now, did you have like a formal employees manual, or is
We did.
it
We
more
did. And
informal?
yes. No, we had formal employee manuals, just spelled out everything from dress code to smoking or not smoking to time off and retirement contribution splits and insurance availables, everything. Yes. So we had that pretty well covered. But we also had people in the office who did a lot of that and developed a lot of that for us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's okay, I have a master's degree in engineering. I don't have that going. Okay. For a gentleman who maybe finished 8th grade, how did you learn to do stuff like that? That just amazes me. I mean, is there anything you recommend in terms of like mastermind groups and, or courses or anything?
There are a few events or not masterminds per se, but GaryJohnston.com or Gary Johnston's seminars, I would call very, very high quality. There is another one, Dyke Spotiford. He's from Atlanta, Georgia. Again, very, very quality person. Dyke Spotiford's is assets101.com. Both of them, I think, will not disappoint.
Yeah, I've heard of Dykes. He's actually very good. So I get the impression you had employees. You didn't necessarily have like 1099 independent contractors. That'd be
We
correct?
had 1099 contractors, but we looked always at what was the purpose. So I would say there's not necessarily a one size fits all, but if the person was going to be a long-term member of the team, there's benefits of the employees that a 1099 isn't allowed to per se bring unless you ride that gray line so much that in the event of audit, one would wish they were set up as an employee if the government determined it was essentially an employee trying to slide under the 1099 rules. But if we wanted somebody, for example, to be on call for maintenance for residential or commercial properties, that would be an employee. If we needed somebody to replace a roof or contract for roof or window replacements in properties, that could well fit the employee or the 1099 because it was a very separated task.
Okay. If I could ask you now, you first started buying houses, then you scaled up to self-storage then directly from
Yeah.
houses? I mean, you just one day woke up and said, I'm gonna buy some self-storage, or how does that work?
Well, we kind of saw the downturn coming that happened in the 2008 era, and we wanted to get into assets that we believe would be stronger yet than in economic downturns. So we had identified either trailer parks or self-storage with the thought that families will either move in together in their homes and store their stuff in self-storage properties, or some families would downscale and move out of perhaps a home that they may be losing to foreclosure and move into a trailer park or mobile home park, and again need to store their things. So we did that strategically before the downturn, with the vision that the downturn was coming. And the first property we bought, I just would drive by going to an office. We bought a 4-unit property that had been used with one of the units as, actually 5 units in that property. One of the 5 units was used as an office. And so we were working out of that office with one other staff person, my business partner and I, and a staff person. And every day going to the office, I'd drive by this self-storage property. So I looked on LoopNet and saw that it was for sale and just made those connections. And it was our first self-storage acquisition. It worked well, and we just grew that.
Did you have to modify it in any way? Like, did you have to bring it up with a new technology, or was that all that stuff already in place?
That was in place relatively well. They were using a little antiquated software. So over the years that we owned it, we updated things, but that particular property was closer to what we needed it to be than any other one that we bought. It was mismanaged, and not marketed as well, but the property maintenance and repairs and systems were generally in place.
Okay, now, if you could, if you don't mind my asking, Joe, you say you had at one time 4 self-storage units. I'm sure you didn't buy all 4 at once though, right? You had like, you started out one and then bought the other 3 later.
Yeah, the first one we bought in 2008, second one in 2014, one in 2016, and then the most recent one we built in the 2018 area.
Okay, now you bought your first one, you say off of LoopNet, correct?
Yes, yes.
How big was it? Basically, what kind of capacity did it have? How did you fund it? And if you don't mind my asking, if you don't mind, how much did you end up buying and reselling it for? Is it basically, did you make a profit when you sold? I'm sure you did.
Yeah, so it was about 20,000 square feet of rentable space. We looked for the closing statement. We bought it at 638,000 in 08. We sold it at 1.43 million in 2019. And that was largely appreciation and increasing net operating income, as commercial properties are valued by the income they produce. So we didn't do a lot other than do everything well, I think. I mean, we didn't do everything perfectly, but what we did worked. The one that we bought in 2014, I searched the closing statement again, bought it in June 14, paid 1.5 million. Sold it again in 2019 for 3.6. I'm sorry, 3.26, almost 3.3 million. So more than doubled again the money. One that we bought in 2016, bought for 495,000. That one needed about $60,000 to $70,000 worth of renovations, mostly in fencing and some stone, cutting down some brush. But we put in about 60 to 70,000, bought it at 495,000, sold it at 1.44 million. Again, almost $1 million more than we paid for it.
Okay, is your increase in selling price mainly due to the increase in, I guess it'd be pretty much mainly the increase in net operating income? I don't recall Selinsgrove, from when I was a kid now, it being that really high, like say a California type appreciating market. So would it be
It's not.
mainly net operating income?
That's what it is. That is all that it is. I guess the market played in our favor. We were in the position in 2019 to sell or not to sell. I was very comfortable either selling or not selling if they hit the number that we were told it could be sold for. And certainly there was efforts at bringing that number down, but we were in a position to say we don't need to sell. So we just held on until somebody paid the price. And net operating income is really where it's at in commercial properties.
How did you increase it, Joe? I hear people saying like, well, I know several apartment gurus, they say if someone comes at you and say, we're going to increase the net operating income and this sort and decrease expenses, stuff like that, they say basically it's a bunch of crap. Okay. How did you go about doing that with these? I mean, did you just raise the rents or did you increase the unit numbers or?
Well, in the first property we bought, we increased units to a very small extent. We just had a parking area that was being rented as one parking space. So we built basically a lean-to over it and did a nice job where it could be accessed from the inside of the building through the hallways. And I think we added about 6 units into that space that was formerly just one parking space. So to that extent, we added units. Other than that, between 2008 to 2019, we just increased the rents.
Okay. Gerald, I hope it's okay. We're getting a couple questions in the chat here. Tim's asking, where do you see the storage industry headed? Do you see any saturation of investors in the near future in that arena?
Wow. Well, I am actually closed on a small self-storage property with a business partner today, remote closing from the office here in Pennsylvania for a small property in Georgia. But that's a excellent question because I ask myself for that answer a lot. Square foot per capita is increasing. People store more things than they used to, and likewise are more comfortable paying the monthly payments than they ever used to. In years past, I used to look for a 7 square foot per capita for market saturation. That is good for rural northern areas. More suburban southern parts of the country are at 15 and 16 square foot per capita. I get very hesitant looking at buying a property in markets that are at 15 and 16 square foot per capita, but I'm not necessarily scared of it if they've got good operations and good financials. But where's the market going? I see it continuing. I see things happening that I didn't expect we would see happening. And I always just wonder, when's it gonna pop? And I think it's going to be very individualized, very localized, where some big player comes in and a small operator says, I just couldn't handle it anymore. Like big money moved into town, built a nice facility, glass front perhaps, or just trying to use that as an example, but big money playing the game, and small operators may just sort of fade away. I do see it as being aggregated to bigger investors and bigger operators. I see that happening a lot.
Okay, and Joe, we got another question in the chat. Guido's asking, what are your criteria when purchasing the units, such as the net operating income, the cap rate, and things like that?
I wish I had a good, easy answer. It would make my life easier if I knew. But that's, Guido, great question. Again, I look for the very same answers, and I'm happy to share the insight for whatever it's worth. Just glad for the disclaimer, Bob, early on in the meeting. So, oh man.
I hear you.
Yeah, cap rates. I will look for 8+, and it very much varies based on the quality and size of the property in the market. And if we equate it back, and I don't know, Guido, what your experience is, but trying to bring it into house investing terms, in Pennsylvania, I can get very high returns going into inner city Harrisburg, questionable for safety, rents are high, but it's because a lot of investors don't want to subject themselves or their assets to being in those areas. Some of the same is at play in self-storage. If we've got a small, poorly maintained property in a poor location, cap rates must be high because there's a lot more risk at play. I look for higher cap rates. You know, I used to look for 10, 11 and higher. Needle in the haystack. In today's market, finding a property advertised commercially with a commercial broker at an 8 cap just doesn't happen. They are selling at 4.5, 5.5, 6 caps. Of course, the low caps are for the A-class type properties. But even at 6 or 7 caps are more run-of-the-mill properties, may or may not have pavement even at a 6.5 cap. So I don't know that I'm really answering your question, Guido. I am looking for the needle in the haystack and just combing through a lot of properties to find what we look for and not buying a lot. Right now is a time that I am content not buying a lot and being positioned for a time that I believe we may see asset prices turn down. I really don't know what that looks like. More questions than I have answers on that point. I like to look for the answers, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, folks, for those of you who are really new to real estate investing, don't be shy if you don't know what cap rate is or net operating income. Don't be shy. Feel free to ask. In fact, I know Gerald's a teacher at heart. So, but anyway.
Well, Bob, do we
Tim
just
is asking, we'll get you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We might have a little lag in the audio connection, but I was saying maybe a brief overview of net operating income and cap rate, if appropriate. Okay, so.
Absolutely.
All right. So to find net operating income in properties, but specifically in commercial properties, we've got the revenue or the income, and then you've got your fixed expenses and you've got your management expenses. But basically taking all the expenses such as electric and insurance and taxes and repair and everything out of income, but not bank payments. So expenses off minus income minus expenses leaves us with net operating income. So that gives us the number of dollars the property produces to pay for the acquisition price. So to look for cap rate, it's basically a percentage value. So a 10 cap property that has $10,000 per year in net operating income is $100,000 value. So as the cap rate increases, the values decrease. If it was a 5 cap, it would be a $200,000 value property. So a quick search on YouTube will do better, but sorry if I wasted that time, Bob. That was my effort.
No, that's actually very appropriate time to bring it up. So basically what Gerald's looking for is in high risk area. He wants more return on the money he puts in. So he's going to ask for a higher cap rate, basically. So I can see that. Gerald, if it's okay, Tim's asking, do you look for areas with competition or do you shy away from too much competition in a particular market?
I don't look for areas with competition, but I evaluate the competition that exists in the market of the property. I think of a self-storage market as a 5-mile radius, approximately. Rural markets stretch out to 7 or more miles. Inner city, urban markets a little tighter, but using 5 miles as a good average. I will be looking very closely at what competition exists in the market, using Google Earth to measure rooftops. And there are Radius Plus is a website that you can use that captures the monthly rental price of self-storage competitors, the square footage available of climate controlled and non-climate controlled, and is their effort is to become a one-stop shop for the feasibility studies or the due diligence work for doing what I'm trying to do.
what was that website, Radius Plus?
Yes, let me confirm that on my screen. Radius Plus is the,
I gotta look that one up. I know that one.
radiusplus.com. Yes, Radius Plus.
Okay.
Spell the plus out, radiusplus.com.
Okay, thank you, Gerald. Okay, Dawn's asking something in the chat that actually, if it's okay, Dawn, I'm gonna add on to that. I'm gonna say, especially now that you're buying in other states besides Pennsylvania, how are you finding your deals? As well as how are you funding them? How easy is it to get bank financing for them to pull your money back after you put into them? Also, how are you able to manage these things still living in Pennsylvania? Obviously, you can't, like, I know you have a self-storage facility in Virginia now, as well as Georgia. So I mean, how are you finding them, funding them, and managing them?
All right. Good questions. Finding them, I am happy to have connected with a partner who is doing the majority of the finding work. But to that point, how is he finding them? We are jointly doing mailings to self-storage property owners. He is signed up for many different commercial brokerages, email lists for self-storages becoming available. He reaches out and then we connect as a team with commercial brokers on the eastern parts of the country and to just kind of tell them what we're looking for. And from time to time, they'll just come back and say, hey, we've got a property coming online or coming available. Is this something that interests you? So that's how we're finding them. The better deals are usually off market, typical for houses or commercial properties. But probably as is the case in houses, there's anomalies that deals are on the market. Funding today, it was a very small property, 5,000 square feet that we acquired in Sylvester, Georgia. We paid for that one with cash, but in the other ones, we're using bank financing. I prefer small banks. Small banks is, may have 5 branches or 15 branches, but not Wells Fargo, Bank of America, M&T, BB&T. My experience with small banks versus big banks is the big banks see me as a number in the file because I'm kind of playing small games for their customer ratios. Like I'm a little fish in a huge pond in a big. Small banks will give a lot more customer service to small operators, and their terms are more attractive, I think. Not necessarily always interest rates, but they kind of operate from a community aspect rather than large corporate aspects, in my opinion. So bank funding, sometimes a cash involvement, and looking for small bank operators. And even if it's out of town, just making the connection. And that's what we're doing. Managing it. We are using online self-storage management software. Easy Storage Solutions is the name of the business. They have a storageunitssoftware.com domain. Storage units, plural. I'm sorry, storage unit. They got the S mixed up. Storageunitssoftware.com. I can paste that in the chat if you wish. But that's what we're doing. So that is a young but rapidly growing company that also integrates call center services. So we can have our phone calls answered by somebody who is experienced in this and sign in real time to see what units are rented or available or what revenues are being produced. We use security cameras for the property. And so far in these two properties, we do not have secure access or gate controls. But that is something that would integrate and does very well in self-storage. These softwares are built out for sort of back office inputs to tell the software to lock people out when they become delinquent. So in my ideal self-storage days, we would lock people out when they became about 7 days delinquent. Very strong motivator for people to pay. And then the gate codes just automatically get disconnected, if you will, until they pay. And storage laws are very much in favor compared to residential rental laws, at least in Pennsylvania.
I wish you could do that to tenants in some of these rentals. Now, Tim's asking, do you shy away from competing with the public storage places, stuff like that?
I will want to see good financials on properties that I think I can meet or beat the management style of the operators. So I'm not necessarily scared of it, but if I am being sold a bill of goods, what they call a pro forma in the commercial investment world, pro formas, Latin for the form in which it should take, otherwise known as bullshit. If I am being sold a property on a pro forma, I am taking a very, very close look at what it will really do, because pro formas are commonplace in this market. In fact, there's almost nothing but pro forma sales in the commercials listed on the market right now. So there was my candor in the pro forma story.
Yeah, I heard one of the apartment gurus saying that pro forma is a Latin for a lie or something like that.
Well,
So,
that's better said. That's better.
Okay, Derek's asking, do storage units use Radius Plus to justify increasing or lowering prices to stay competitive?
Well, Radius Plus is a good tool. It is the tool that they're trying to build it again to be the tool so that we can sign in there and see what competitors are charging or how much square footage they have available for rent. So certainly that would be a good tool to go in and see if we are underpriced or overpriced if we were not renting up as quickly as we had projected.
So this kind of sounds like Rentometer for storage units,
Yes,
basically.
exactly. Yes.
Okay, and Tim's asking, do you work with the Storage Rebellion? I guess Mike Wagner. Have you heard of that, Gerald?
I have heard of it. I have never sought them out, but I've heard only good about them.
Okay, now along the lines of working out of state and whatnot, and then a partner, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now I've had an issue with this. How do you find trustworthy partners? And I don't know if you're using property, obviously self-storage units aren't as maintenance intensive as, say, apartments, or rental units with people in them. But how do you find trustworthy partners in property management companies?
Well, that's a good question. I have learned every year I grow older, I learn the value of working with trusted people better than I did in my younger years. That's to say I've gotten burnt, and I've heard older and wiser people tell me what I am now repeating to say, find good people with just one of the highest importance items. How to do that? Honestly, in my residential management days, and I still own residential properties, but I have what I call a criteria for approval for a tenant to become approved to move into one of my properties. I think the last property I rented, I had 25 applications, all of which paid $25 to apply until I had one that was approved. The bar is pretty high, but when I get somebody, I usually have somebody pretty good. Honestly, I don't have that for business partners. I have Jeff Watson, a reputable attorney who I respect and read his newsletters and blog posts, has put out some work on how to find them, or basically to critique if the person we have found is the right one. But he would say things like, meet them, go out to dinner with them, see how they treat others, see how they treat you, obtain their social security number, run their credit, do corporate business records reports on seeing how have they managed other businesses. And wish I could tell you I do those things. Perhaps I would have not been on the short end of the stick as much, but I'm very much a work in progress on that side.
Yeah,
I
I
guess-
know Jeff Watson's he's out of Ohio, right? So
Yes, he recently also.
but his stuff seems pretty universally applicable.
Yes.
Okay, now along the lines of that, Gerald, I'm going to kind of bundle a couple questions together, if that's okay. Are you a private lender? And if so, what kind of deals do you lend on? Do you lend on deals outside of Pennsylvania? What terms? Obviously, you have some disposable cash at your hands. What terms and returns do you typically expect on your money?
All right, I'll try to answer that. I do lend outside of Pennsylvania. I have lent in quite a number of different states. Currently, I've been working primarily with a company called Dayton Capital. Let me seek their correct web address. It may well be Dayton Capital. They are from Dayton, Ohio, and a person who I trust. They place money at 10%. So I have done some of that. DaytonCapitalPartners.com. I can paste that into the chat. I have also been investing with LX Financial, another broker, as Dayton Capital is a broker. LX Financial is out of the Newark, New Jersey area. I have most recently probably funded a deal with them maybe about a year ago, or maybe 8 to 12 months ago. At the time that I was funding deals, I was being paid 5 points and 12%. High rate of return. They're still doing investments. Any other people can become investors with them. Not the special person in any way. However, I believe they may have more money than good deals, and they may, to some extent, give priority to people who they've worked with. But if anybody is looking for a place to invest money, I would be happy to make the referral to Paul Links of LX Financial or Darren Carey of Dayton Capital. I have been lending some besides through brokers, not a lot. I really don't look for places to lend unless they kind of find me first. Because because I had a plan to be relatively liquid for what I believed would be a downturn in the real estate market. I have been relatively liquid for quite a while, and now I'm sort of changing my opinion of when that downturn may come. I don't know what that will look like, but I expect we may see some rampant inflation for the near term, perhaps for even a few years. But at some point, I believe there will be a reversion to the mean, just a correction to the markets to say. Not sure if that covers what you were asking, but
It does, Gerald, basically bring you something that makes sense and safety. But if I could ask you this, Gerald, okay, you mentioned a downturn in the market. What indicators are you looking for that show a downturn is on its way?
wow. Not even sure how to answer that. I've read macroeconomic newsletters, and then some that dive deeper into the details. Basically with all the easy money right now, in the most simple of terms, coming from a person who really doesn't understand the details, but it's kind of a 8th grader guy trying to put forth effort to learn. With all the easy money and almost free money, if you will, that's been thrown around from the Fed since COVID, I kind of, in simple terms, just look at it like there will come a day of reckoning. The interest payment on this from the Fed almost demands that there will be a correction. And when sort of the purse strings get tightened a bit, the economy may not quite know how to react to sort of no longer the free capital, the easy money. And sometimes it doesn't take much more than a straw to break the camel's back. So that doesn't really give me the exact detail, but I am kind of looking at it in a way that to say that the current economic situation is probably going to continue because the Fed is hell-bent on making it happen for a while yet, until I think they will have no other choice but face the piper. I don't know. That's not giving much detail. It's very amateur effort.
No, it's actually makes a lot of sense because they're still putting out like PPP money, EIDL money, and stuff like that. I don't know when that's going to stop. But this is something. Last time we had lunch was about a month ago, maybe. I actually asked something along the lines here. Obviously, you're nowhere near ready to retire. It looks like you're having too much fun. But when you do finally retire, you can probably have this huge portfolio to deal with. What are you going to do with your investments? I mean, are you just going to sell them all off, or are you training your kids how to handle them? Or
Well, my daughters, I have twin girls, 13 years old. So I hope they will have interest in doing what I love to do, but I'm not counting on it. So I'm not training them to carry it on. What you asked me when we had lunch about a month ago has given it some thought since, and really I'm not very well positioned for the days after me. Like, how will the assets be handled after I am not the person overseeing them? I think I've got some work to do. I'm not sure quite what that looks like, but I guess I am very loosely trying to manage things to sort of be compiled in entities. I have sort of a little venture funding. It's a lending entity. I have a entity for hard assets, residential properties, another entity for my partnership in the self-storage, and then other investments. But generally those are the entities that are active in investments. And so even when I invest in other entities, other interests, I will try to run it through my lending entity or my venture funding entity, so that it's still a paper asset. So yes, I'm trying to be positioned, but recognize that if tomorrow somebody else needed to carry it on, it would be a little difficult.
You mentioned you have like a venture group set up. Do you have a website for that?
I do not. Very, very simple beginnings. No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, if it's okay, yeah, please keep me up to date on that. I'd love to get involved in that somehow. Okay, at this point here, Gerald, I don't know if I have any more questions myself. Does anyone out in the crowd, the attendees, have any questions for Gerald? This is some pretty valuable stuff, and I know Gerald doesn't mind answering them. I don't see any
I have a
questions.
question, please.
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, when you finance these properties through the bank, what kind of loan to value will a bank allow on storage unit? I mean, I know it depends on, the numbers and all that stuff, the cash flow, things like.
Right. They will do 80% off in current times, 80% loan to value.
Like 80% loan to value, what, 15 years with a 5-year call or 10-year call or something like that?
Yeah, they will. Well, I'll try not to get into the calls, but it is true that banks often do that, the small banks, maybe even big banks, but I just try not to work with big banks. I tried to fix it for 10 years and recently been getting around the 4% fixed for 10 years price.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for Gerald? Gerald, if you don't mind my asking, okay, when you deal with local banks outside of Stillings Grove, are you just calling them on the phone to start a relationship with them, or do you meet with them in person?
Calling on the phone, just searching out and trying to get a feel for what, if they match what I think I'm looking for in a small bank, and just calling in and trying to get through to the right person. Yeah, the one of the recent ones that I dealt with, got to work with one of the senior vice presidents in small banks. People wear many hats. So he was in commercial lending as well, and it just made it easy.
Hey, Gerald, Bob, if I may, Gerald, I sent you a direct message in the chat box. I don't know if you could get that before we close off. This is Tim Bradford or TK Bradford. So I don't know if you picked that up or not. So
I was not looking, but now I see it.
okay. Okay.
Absolutely. I will reach out. I will reach out to you.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone else has any questions? Appreciate that, Tim. This is some pretty good stuff here. Sounds like Gerald's just opening up anything.
Yeah, feel free to talk or chat.
Okay, Gerald, I don't think. Yeah. Oh, yeah, actually, let me ask you this, Joe. I need to ask this to you. Okay. There's some gurus out there who sell self-storage courses and boot camps and stuff. And I'm thinking like Scott Myers and stuff like that. I mean, is that stuff legit, or in your opinion, or are you familiar with this guy?
I went to a Scott Myers event in Texas before we bought the very first property. So I guess to that extent, one could say it didn't hurt me because, I feel that we've done well. in the self-storage aspect. I can't speak directly for Scott. I think I would say that what I know about Scott is that he builds his network to sell the education to sort of become involved in deal flow. And if a beginning investor doesn't feel capable of taking on a certain size deal, Scott, I believe, has a system, if you will. I'm not speaking to if it's a good or bad system because I don't know that. Just trying to give insight to what I believe his intent is and what you might expect if you latch on to it. But I think he is looking for investors to partner with, and I don't know what that looks like. But if anybody on the call wishes to get involved in self-storage, I believe that Scott would, one, be happy to take your money to teach you, and two, would probably pitch the idea to you that he will be a partner and that there is almost no deal too large if the numbers make sense.
Okay, now that being said, Gerald, I'm going to say something that, I went to an unnamed apartment house gurus boot camp. He's actually out there quite a bit. And I put money into one of his syndications and the returns were pretty abysmal. Okay, so just because they're a guru teaching this stuff doesn't mean that they necessarily know what's best for you and your money. So be careful. I don't know about Scott, okay, but the guy I put my money with, that was a mistake. So be careful, even if he's up on stage talking, be careful where you put your money. So
Agree.
anyway,
Agree.
is there anyone else with a question for Gerald or anything?
I have another question here, Bob. Appreciate it. What's the probability of getting owner financing on those storage units? Is that something out of the question, or is it a far-fetched idea or what?
No, it's not far-fetched. I think it is currently, I'd say it runs in line with, well, the better the market, the less owners are generally willing to owner finance. And likewise, the less buyers that see benefit in owner finance, because in my experience, I just explained about getting a 4% fixed money for 10 years. If you can get it for less from an owner, excellent. But it's possible and it's out there. Last week I was in Virginia looking at a self-storage property that the owner is willing to finance the entire amount. However, they wanted a $25,000 down payment. I negotiated through that to say, what if your 25,000 turns into closer to 26, but it's the first 12 months of prepaid principal and interest, and they accepted it. So owner financing is possible, even now, even 100%. If you can count 12-month prepaid payments as 100% financing. That property is in a flood zone, and I'm not sure if it's going to be something that I will go ahead with. The guy's going to lose money. I don't know. He did a nice renovation job on a flood zone property that flooded soon after he had it fixed up. And that just makes me very aware of the risk of another flood, not if it happens, but when.
How about as far as subject to, taking, the loan subject to, is that ever possible? Or, it depends on the motivation of the seller, I'm sure, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that in self-storage, but is it possible? I'll look at the world as my oyster or your oyster, and what can we negotiate that's a win-win for everybody? So is it possible? I'm sure it is, but I can't speak to having done it.
And I don't know, the banks are more likely to want to, call the loan due if that were to happen, I don't know. So hard to say about banks.
I think in that case, if you're making your payments, they're probably not going to call the loan due unless something else changes in their portfolio. A lot of these commercial notes have language in it that essentially allow them to call it due just because they want to, the big banks specifically. So I don't know. I would look at that as it may not increase the chance of them calling it due very, very highly, but that's one person's opinion.
Do they want a prepayment penalty that they irritate that or not?
Trying to think. I just got a commitment letter from a local bank. That's a $652,000 loan, 10 years fixed again, 4%. They have penciled in a 2% of outstanding principal as a prepayment penalty if paid within the first 5 years, unless it's funds that are internally generated. So if you track those words, if the money comes from either selling the asset, it's generated from within the entity that owned the asset, no prepayment penalty. If it comes from other funds that you have in the entity from selling other property, you can pay them off without prepayment penalty. They're really just trying to protect from their local competitors taking away their business.
Thank you, Gerald. Appreciate that information.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Don. Is there anyone else who has a question for Gerald? Especially in the self-storage arena? Okay. I don't see anyone popping up, Joe. I do have to ask you one question myself, though. Now that you bought my farmer's market in Lewisburg, I hope you're going to treat it well, make it better. Okay. I
Always,
want to see that thing rocking the next time I go up to Lewisburg.
always. And I
That is so awesome.
Yeah, I looked at that as a challenge. I was looking for a challenge. I found it. You know, I really enjoy that farmer's market. I really do.
I've always enjoyed it. I don't know. I might have told you this, Gerald. When I was back in, it was even before high school, I think middle school, junior high school. Back there was a bridge, a small, maybe just like a culvert of sorts. And that's where kids used to fight. I remember one of my high school buddies or I should say grade school buddies got beat up back there. So
That bridge is still there.
you can't do that nowadays.
That bridge is still there.
Is it? Okay. Oh yeah. Remember we used to play midget football on the field behind what used to be the Agway, but anyway. Okay, well, I guess if nobody else has any more questions, we'll just I'd just like to say thank you again, Gerald. It's always great talking to you. Next, I anticipate, especially given issues in our family now, I anticipate coming to Pennsylvania more often. I hope to see you when you're not busy traveling and whatnot. So, but thank you. I really appreciate your time, Gerald.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. I look forward to the next time you come up this way, Bob. Let me know. Lunch is on me this time.
It's always a treat, Gerald.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to
Thank you
sign.
very much. But
Thank you, Gerald.
I appreciate it.
okay, you have a great evening, Gerald.
Thanks. All right.
Okay. Okay, now we're trying something a little bit different. I got this idea from Bill Tan. He runs Los Angeles REIA. Kind of a post-meeting meeting, if you will. I don't have it on this, but does anyone have anything? It doesn't have to be related to self-storage or what we just spoke about. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring up that maybe some of us can maybe chip in and maybe give you a hand with? I got to ask Bill how to get this a little more lively. Jay, I apologize. I still have to take a look at your note. So, but I'll take a look at it as soon as I get off, okay? But if
Hey,
anyone
Bob.
has any questions,
Hey,
Yeah.
Bob, do we have anybody on the team who's sort of doing Airbnb?
we have some people doing that. You know what I'd do, Tim, is I'd post that in our Facebook group, our Money Mastermind group. I think Andrew Maccabee does them, as well as I'm trying to think, does Celia Means do those? But if you post those, if you post that in our Facebook group, I think a couple of people will jump out at you.
Gotcha. Okay.
What is the Facebook group? Is it Midlands
Oh.
REIA? I don't.
Well, I'll tell you, Don, can you see my page right now?
Yeah.
Okay, in fact, if you go to just the website itself, this is the easy way. I could give you the website address, but if you just go to midlandsrea.com, see that red there says click here for deals and money.
Yeah.
If you click there, it'll take you right to the group.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And just if you go ahead and click that, we'll just approve you right in, okay?
Oh, you may do it now?
Well, anytime you can do it
Okay, yeah.
later tonight if you want. You can do it now if you want. It's up to you.
I
So
can't do it.
we'll approve
I'll
you
do
right
that.
in. As soon as you see that.
I go to Midlands REIA. I'll just Google it and put it in.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Now, I got another question. It's
Yeah, it's a
it's probably more of a CPA question. I don't know if y'all feel like try to help with this or not, but it sort of involved. My father-in-law passed away back in October. He and his wife and mother-in-law, the properties were in living trust. Okay. The house, of course, the personal residence, we sell that and sell capital gains on that because, it's not going to be, about $90,000, something like that. But they had another house they follow purchased a while back in 2014, I believe it was. But I think what's going to happen, I'm going to check with the CPA about this, so I tell them. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to have realized capital gains on that property, and probably they never rented the house, but they may have to have recapture too. Have you ever run across anything like that?
I'll tell you, Don, that's
it's
well,
a CPA type question, I believe.
Yeah, that's to be honest, that's something I don't know if you're here for a legal shield section. That's something I take to a legal shield attorney, the tax attorney. So
Right,
I
okay.
apologize. I can't help you. Does
Well,
anyone on the call right
I thought maybe you had to
now
tell
know?
something like that along the way or something, but it's
Yeah, that's
but here again,
a little complex for what.
but I think she go in having to pay some capital gains tax and probably recapture. Although the property's never been rented, but I think the IRS imputes that anyway. I don't know. It's just I'm gonna check with CPA about it because I don't want to. No, I'm not gonna try to answer myself, but too complex.
Yeah, I'd be stepping out of my class with that.
Oh, that's okay. I appreciate it.
But hey, Tim, Katina, well, I appreciate you. Hey, Tim, Katina's
Yes.
saying there's an Airbnb work. Look at Soda City Famously Hot on Facebook. I might be in that group actually. So my sister just brought me some ice cream. Careful the water. Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, check that group out, Tim. But
Okay.
also don't forget to post in our Facebook group, say
I promise.
need someone experienced with Airbnbs or something like that. I think you'll have several people pop out at you.
Gotcha.
So-
Gotcha. I just realized what that said,
thank you,
Bob, on
Katina.
there. Click here for deals and money. So if I click on there, I will get money. Is that how that works?
Possibly. You have to
Yeah.
post in their need funding. Okay. or if you want to flip a deal, okay, say I'd mentioned before, don't post an address in there unless you have a contract on the property at least to tie it up.
Right.
I've
Right.
had a couple properties swiped from me because I posted them without having a contract on them. Oh, that's embarrassing. Anyway, but okay, well, I hope to get some ideas on how to invigorate. You know, the guy in Los Angeles says the after meeting is one of his favorite parts of the event. So I'm gonna have to ask him how he gets it going. Okay, so, but if nobody has anything else they'd like to bring up or anything, you know, again, I appreciate everyone attending, and hopefully we can beat that abysmal 3% success rate nationwide. So, okay, well, everyone, please stay in touch, and hope to one day meet everyone in person soon. Have a great evening, everyone.
Yeah, Bob, I'm coming up to South Carolina in June, so I'm gonna try to come to Columbia to see you.
Oh, wait, Don, are you in Florida?
Yeah, Tallahassee.
We did. Oh, you're part of Bill. You came
Yeah. Right.
off of Bill Tans, didn't you? Yeah, we did meet. Yeah,
That's how I
you let
met
me
you,
know when
yeah.
you're in town, okay?
I'm on
Oh,
some
that'd be
website.
great. That'd be
Where
great.
to go to click for deals and money?
Yeah, you see it?
Yeah. Introducing across the app,
Okay.
just put done,
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and click.
join the group.
Yeah, when I get off, I'll
Oh, no problem.
we'll get you in, okay?
All right, buddy. Thanks very much.
Okay. No, thank you. Everyone have a great evening.
You too.